With the conclusion of the BBC's A Very English Scandal, the dramatisation of the Thorpe affair in which former Liberal leader Jeremy Thorpe stood accused of attempted murder by his alleged former lover Norman Scott in the 70s, comes the news that things might not be all dead and buried. The attempted murder case has been reopened after police admitted that they may have incorrectly concluded that Andrew Newton, an airline pilot allegedly hired to carry out the killing, was dead. The original scandal, as well as the resulting court case that saw Thorpe and 3 others acquitted against charges of conspiracy to murder, all makes great fodder for a Sunday TV drama. It is a very bizarre and ever so British scandal, where not even the alleged murder could go to plan. Still, when the adaptation's director, Stephen Frears, stopped by the Today programme on BBC Radio 4, he seemed somewhat unable to acknowledge the seriousness of the issue, especially pertaining to Scott's complaints that the adaptation reduces his experiences to comedy. He complains about it being comic, Frears said on the show. The truth is, Norman is a very, very funny man. Jeremy Thorpe was very funny. There were jokes in the papers every day. You cannot stop it being comic. A Very English Scandal review. Grant gives a BAFTA-worthy performance indeed. Scott himself has said that he can see how the whole setup, the dead dog, the failed murder and the sheer tweeness of the scandal, was darkly humorous. It is very laughable, he said during a documentary on BBC 4, but it's also very, very serious. Scott isn't wrong. An attempt on someone's life, regardless of sexual orientation or social standing, is pretty much up there on the serious scale. Watching the courtroom scenes from A Very English Scandal, though, you can see that the consensus at the time was that the homosexual context of the allegations and Scott's own effeminacy were funny. What's disconcerting, albeit unsurprising, is that in 2018 Frears still sees the case through a lens of humor. Sure, it works for a TV show and quite well at that, too, but to negate Scott's own feelings about the portrayal of the scandal is to enforce a disturbing tradition where homosexuality and campness in men is reduced to the butt of the joke. Admittedly, campness and effeminacy have long been used for gags. But for those people who live their lives eschewing traditional masculinity and for whom campness isn't a humorous affectation, the fetishization by comedy of their behaviors, style or speech ultimately diminishes their experiences as a human being. Because of your campness, you are no longer autonomous, but labeled and grouped together as one entity. Personally, I have had my identity overstepped by straight people in order for them to make comparisons to people like Alan Carr or early Scissor Sisters era Jake Shears, both of whom I adore but bear very little resemblance to in any way. This is done in order for my queerness to be palatable. In other words, anodyne. You see it more today when a femme gay man gets their experiences narrowed to calls of Yas Queen and Slay by RuPaul's Drag Race fans. New images issued by the Grenfell Tower inquiry of the kitchen in Flat 16 where the fire started on June 14 last year. 71 people were killed after the fire tore through the housing block in Kensington. Bishop of Southwark Christopher Chesson and members of the public attend a commemoration service on the first anniversary of the London Bridge terror attack. Britain held a national minute of silence on June 3, 1 year on from the London Bridge terror attack that killed 8 people and injured dozens more. William Buick Ridding Massa celebrates crossing the line and winning the Investec Derby race on Derby Day at Epsom Downs. Traffic passes anti-Brexit signs on the County Derry/London Derry, Northern Ireland and County Donegal in the Irish Republic. Northern Ireland could be given joint EU and UK status and a buffer zone on its border with the Republic, under new plans being drawn up by David Davis, according to reports. Eleanor Crossy-Malone displays an abortion pill packet after taking a pill as abortion rights campaign group Rosa, Reproductive Rights Against Oppression, Sexism and Austerity distribute abortion pills from a touring bus in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Flouting Northern Irish governmental laws which forbid the use of abortion pills, the group are also protesting outside offices belonging to the main political parties in the province. Women in Northern Ireland have been prosecuted for buying abortion pills over the internet, and it is illegal for a woman to have an abortion unless in special circumstances, unlike the rest of the United Kingdom. The Republic of Ireland voted in favour of pro-choice last week in a referendum. West Midlands police officers carrying out scene searches near to where a 15-year-old boy was fatally stabbed in Wolverhampton. A view at Westminster Abbey from the medieval Triforium that is hosting an exhibition in London. The Queen's Diamond Jubilee Galleries, set more than 16 metres, 52 feet, above the Abbey floor in the medieval Triforium, will open to the public for the first time on June 11, displaying over 300 treasures from the Abbey's collection which will tell the rich 1,000-year history of the institution at Westminster Abbey. People enjoy the hot weather on Bournemouth Beach during Bank Holiday Monday in Dorset. Chris Ashton of the Barbarians scores against England at Twickenham. Lightning strikes over the City of London. Rory McIlroy took the clubhouse lead into round 3 of the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. Alistair Cook batting against Pakistan during the first Test match of the summer at Lord's Cricket Ground, London. Home Secretary Sajid Javid speaking at the annual conference of the Police Federation of England and Wales at the International Convention Centre in Birmingham. Felix, too, sits next to messages and flowers left in Manchester, ahead of the Manchester Arena National Service of Commemoration at Manchester Cathedral to mark 1 year since the Manchester attack. Marcio and Andrea Gomez, parents of Logan Gomez, arrived for a commemoration hearing at the opening of the inquiry into the Grenfell Tower disaster, in London. Brackley Town celebrate after winning the Build-based FA Trophy final after they beat Bromley on penalties at Wembley Stadium. Actress Meghan Markle reaches Prince Harry at the altar in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle for their wedding service. Workers from the Covent Garden branch of TGI Fridays on the picket line outside the restaurant as they strike in a dispute over pay. Members of Unite are taking action on Friday in a row over tips and payment of the minimum wage. A police officer talks to a homeless man in Windsor ahead of the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Wing Commander John Butcher, commanding officer of 617 Squadron, left, jokes with Britain's last surviving dambuster, Squadron leader George John E. Johnson, during an event to mark the 75th anniversary of the dambusters' raids at RAF Coningsby. The Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight was hoping to fly one of the 2 remaining Avro Lancaster bombers over the Derwent and Lady Bower reservoirs, but high winds prevented the aircraft from taking off. 2018 marks the 100th anniversary of the formation of the RAF and the 75th anniversary of the 617 Squadron Dambusters operation. The Dam Buster Raids. Operation Chastise was an attack on German dams on 17 May 1943 by Royal Air Force No. 617th Squadron, using an innovative bouncing bomb, which skimmed on the surface of the reservoir before hitting the dam wall and exploding. President of Turkey Recep Tayyip Erdogan speaks as British Prime Minister Theresa May listens during a press conference after their meeting at 10 Downing Street. Erdogan is in the UK for a 3-day visit, which includes a closing lecture at the Tat Lidl Forum in Oxford, an audience with the Queen and talks with Theresa May. The funeral cortege of Alfie Evans goes past Everton's Goodison Park ground in Liverpool. Doctors at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool stopped providing life support treatment to Alfie last month after his parents, Tom Evans and Kate James, lost 2 rounds of fights in the High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court and European Court of Human Rights. Daisy May Cooper, the winner of the Female in a Comedy Award for this country, with her BAFTA. Thousands of union members marched through central London demanding a new deal for workers, in an event organised by the Trades Union Congress, TUC. Jeremy Corbyn with shipbuilding apprentices at the Fairfield Shipbuilding Museum in Govan. During a speech he called for Navy shipbuilding contracts to stay in the UK. Dominic Chilcott, right, British ambassador in Turkey, hands over a letter of apology from the UK government to Libyan dissident Abdul Hakim Belhaj, at the British consulate, in Istanbul. Abdul Hakim Belhaj and his wife, Fatima Boudka, allege they were detained in Southeast Asia in 2004 and sent to Libya to be interrogated by the regime of late dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Britain acknowledged Thursday that its intelligence agents played a role in the kidnapping and torture of an opponent of the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, a rare admission of wrongdoing by British spies. The coffin of former House of Commons Speaker Lord Michael Martin, followed by his widow Mary, is carried from St Aloysius in Glasgow after his funeral. The former Labour MP died on Sunday, April 29, after a short illness at the age of 72. Mayor of London Sadiq Khan and Labour MP Heidi Alexander. Ms Alexander is standing down from Parliament after being confirmed as London's Deputy Mayor for Transport, replacing current Deputy Mayor Val Shawcross. Arsene Wenger bids farewell to Arsenal Football Club and the stadium he helped to build in more ways than one. It was Wenger's final home game of after 22 years in charge. Arsenal sent him off with a 5-0 victory over Burnley. Manchester City celebrate with the trophy after winning the Premier League title. Anti-independence supporters wave Union Jack flags as thousands of demonstrators march in support of Scottish independence through the streets of Glasgow. Prime Minister Theresa May with her supporters during a visit to Wandsworth Town Hall, where the Conservative Party retained control of Wandsworth Council in the local elections. Jeremy Corbyn outside a polling station in Islington after voting in the local elections. A memorial to George Michael outside his house in Highgate, North London. George Michael's family have since asked fans to remove their tributes from outside the late singer's former homes for the sake of his neighbours. Lester Morrisman during May Day celebrations at Bradgate Park in Newtown, Linford, Leicestershire. Sajid Javid outside the Home Office in Westminster after he was appointed as the new Home Secretary. Celtic celebrate after winning. They confirmed winning the Scottish Premiership by beating rivals Rangers 5-0 at Celtic Park. People released balloons outside Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool, following the death on Saturday morning of Alfie Evans, who was being treated at the hospital. The 23-month-old died at 2:30 a.m., parents Kate James and Thomas Evans said on Facebook. The youngster was at the center of a legal battle over his treatment that touched hearts around the world. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, right, speaks with British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, left, and Belgian Foreign Minister Didier Reynders, centre, during a meeting of the North Atlantic Council at NATO headquarters in Brussels. NATO held its last major meeting in its old headquarters, with talks focused on strained ties with Russia, a fresh peace effort in Afghanistan and a new training mission for Iraq. A protester wearing a mask depicting Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, flanked by two protesters wearing angry emoji masks, protest outside Portcullis House in central London. Facebook's CTO Mike Schroepfer appeared in front of British members of Parliament on the Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee in the wake of allegations that information on millions of its users was misused. Members of the military work in the Maltings shopping area, close to the bench where Russian former double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found critically ill 7 weeks ago. The area around the bench where the couple collapsed is one of 9 sites to be cleaned in an operation that is likely to take several months. A statue in honor of the first female suffragette Millicent Fawcett is unveiled as Prime Minister Theresa May and Mayor of London Sadiq Khan look on during a ceremony in Parliament Square. The statue of women's suffrage leader Millicent Fawcett is the first monument of a woman and the first designed by a woman, Turner Prize-winning artist Gillian Wearing OBE, to take a place in Parliament Square. Prince William arrives at the Lindo wing of St Mary's Hospital with his children Prince George and Princess Charlotte after his wife Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, gave birth to a son. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge crosses the finish line to win the men's elite race at the London Marathon 2018. Team England athletes during the Commonwealth Games. Team England parade in Victoria Square, Birmingham. Varun Chopra of Essex during the Specsavers County Championship Division 1 match between Essex and Lancashire at the Chelmsford County Cricket Ground. The game is being played in the warmest April temperatures in 70 years. A young boy cools off in the fountains in Piccadilly Gardens in Manchester. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau takes a selfie with Mayor of London Sadiq Khan and New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern at City Hall in London, during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. They discussed gender equality and issues affecting young people with London school children. Prime Minister Theresa May hosts a meeting with leaders and representatives of Caribbean countries, at 10 Downing Street on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Enera Thomas, the first baby to be born on the NHS, addresses the Unison Health Conference at the Brighton Centre. Yet, this problem isn't just a hetero one. Within the gay community itself, femiphobia and camp shaming is a tangible problem. The generic mating calls of #MaskForMaskMen on dating apps and in gay clubs diminish the desires and wants of those who don't conform to traditionally masculine ideals. The media that caters to gay people just enforces this monotony. And in those rare moments when campness is celebrated, it's still reduced to flamboyance and never given the erotic weight bestowed upon their straight-acting counterparts. Clearly, it doesn't take a degree to see that this all stems from a fear and demonization of femininity. A man behaving in what's perceived as a traditionally female way is funny because it's considered abnormal. And it's considered abnormal because femininity of any kind is viewed as wrong. That campness and comedy are interlinked shouldn't be all that surprising. Making people laugh is better than aggressive displays of homophobia, even if it does come at the expense of your own identity. Nevertheless, it feels like we should be past all that. If someone wants to use their campness or effeminacy for comedy, they should absolutely do that. But to assume that just because someone is camp their experiences are immediately comedic is, in 2018, reductive. Surely it's time to close the chapter on dehumanizing camp and femme men. If not, we might just rebel, one limp wrist at a time.